Contract Verbs, Chapter 17. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. It really affects a very small part of what we need to understand, but I'm going to go through them. Contract verbs are the result of a verb stem that ends with a vowel, epsilon, alpha, or omicron, like the verb agapao. We get agapo. Agapa ends in an alpha, and this vowel will merge with the first vowel of the pronominal ending. Verb tenses without tense formatives merge to create new vowels, and that is our case because we're dealing with the present. When we moved further to tense formatives, the problem is going to disappear in many ways. But at this point, we're going to get new vowels that are the result of the merging. Tense formatives, such as sigma, are going to cause the final vowel to do one of two things. If it's an epsilon or an alpha, it's going to expand to an eta. If it's an omicron, it will expand to an omega. Much simpler, but we're dealing right now with pure vowel merges. So the other thing that's going to happen is the accent of the verb will move to the site of the vowel merge. So let's look at some standard vowel merges, and I have grouped these according to the merged vowel, because you're going to see that several of these merges are going to create the same diphthong or vowel. So if the stem ends in an epsilon and the pronominal vowel begins with an epsilon, we're going to get an epsilon iota. This is the only one that's going to happen. The big one's going to happen is the red one. So if we have an epsilon and the pronominal vowel is an omicron, we're going to get an omicron upsilon. You'll see that accent there. Or if we have an omicron stem and a pronominal epsilon, again, we'll get an upsilon. And if we have an omicron stem and a pronominal omicron, we're going to get omicron upsilon. If the stem ends with an alpha and the pronominal vowel is an epsilon, we're going to get a long alpha. This is not very important. We can really think in many ways of the fact that the epsilon doesn't affect it. However, because it's now a long vowel, any iota that comes after it must subscript. Then with the last group is the omega. So any time we have alpha plus an omicron, we get an omega. Or any vowel plus an omega, omega overrides everything, we get an omega. Epsilon contracts, we're going to begin with poye. This is a stem that has something to do with making or creating, and the stem of it ends with an epsilon, and so we know there's going to be some merging that's going to take place. So poye, we have an epsilon at the end. And if we would come in contact with the omega, which is our first person singular ending, we'd have poye, and that would be poyo with an accent. Remember, the omega overrides everything. And I would have I create. If I had the second person, ace, and that epsilon and epsilon is going to come together, poyes, it's going to be the same as it was before, except it's going to have an accent. You create. Poye, same thing's going to happen with a third person you could expect. The only thing that changes is going to be the accent. He, she, it does or creates. So let's look at the plural, amen. So the merging is going to be with this omicron in the first person plural. So poye, And epsilon plus an Omicron is an Omicron upsilon, so we get poiumen. We create, once again, epsilon plus epsilon, and it's going to give us poiete. Epsilon plus epsilon is an epsilon iota. Y'all create. And the ending, the third person ending, there's that Omicron upsilon here. We know our ending is an epsilon, so U is going to be the result of this. And we're going to get poiusi, they create. If the ending is an alpha contract, that is, the ending is an alpha, then the merging is going to be with this alpha. Tima has something to do with value, worth, honor. This Tima touches an omega. Remember, the omega overrides everything. We get Timo, I honor. A second person, that alpha plus the epsilon, it's going to, remember, the alpha is going to be made long and the iota is going to subscript. So we still have that sigma there, but that iota, same thing's going to happen with the epsilon iota. Alpha's there with the epsilon. It's going to merge. The alpha is going to become long, and the iota is going to subscript. He, she, it honors. Plural. Remember, alpha plus omicron omega. Timomen, we honor. Ete, alpha plus an epsilon. Timate, with the usi, that omicron, alpha plus an omicron, we know what this is going to be. Timosi, they honor. Plerao is something about filling, being filled, or something like that, the stem. So, the important thing is the stem ends in an omicron. So this is an Omicron contract. Plera, and we know the omega overrides everything. So we get plero, I fulfill. Ace, the second person, that omicron with an epsilon. This is unusual because it's a regular, so this one you're going to have to memorize this, and the second and the third. What we get is pleirois. Okay, we're expecting a merging us. We're getting pleirois. Is going to happen in the third person. Pleira, with that epsilon. He, she, it fulfills. Pleiroi. Plural. Pleira. Now we know that omicron and omicron gives us an omicron upsilon, so we get pleirumen. Notice this ending never changes. It's only the vowel in front of the ending. Ete, omicron epsilon, omicron upsilon, pleirute, you all fulfill. And then usi, and omicron, u. So we're left with the same thing for pleirusi, they fulfill. Okay, vocabulary time, chapter 17. Agapao. 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 Agapo is I love or cherish. Daimonion. 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 Second declension, neuter, demon. Zeteo. 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 Epsilon contract. I seek, desire, try to obtain. Kaleo. 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 Again, another epsilon contract. I call, name, or invite. Laleo. 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 Epsilon contract. I speak, say. Oida. 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 This is a very unusual form. You need to look this one in your grammar. This is actually the perfect form. We're not going to get to some time, but it has become the present form. So the present form for I know or understand is oida. Hatan. 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 Whenever. That alpha nu at the end, that particle turns everything into ever. So hate, which was when, where the on becomes whenever. Pleon. 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 This is a 3-3 adjective. Remember that? The masculine and the feminine are the first, and the second one is a neuter. Larger or more. Plerao. 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 Omicron contract. I feel, complete, or fulfill. Tereo. 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 Epsilon contract. I keep, guard, or observe. Present middle passive indicative. We have had the present active indicative endings, primary endings, which talk about the subject doing the action. The present middle passive endings that we're going to look at are different. They're primary endings, but they are primary middle endings. Present middle passive indicative. The tense, and it's the same tense as we've had. The tense is present. The voice can either be middle or passive. That is, we haven't established what the middle is yet, but we know what the passive is. And the middle and the passive have the same endings. The mood is indicative. All of our moods will be indicative. The ending is primary middle passive. We had primary active. That was our first set of endings. Oase a, amen ete usi. This is the primary middle passive ending. It's a new set of endings. The middle endings in the present are usually going to denote passive. That is, they are denoting that the subject is receiving the action, or they're deponents, and we'll be looking at deponents. Deponents are words that have an active meaning, but their endings are middle. It's purely form. So let's look at the present middle passive primary ending. First person singular. The ending is Omicron mu alpha iota. Oh my. Oh my. My. Me. Oh my. M means first person. Second person, A. And the reason it's A is the S has fallen out of psi and has left this. Third person is etai. And we're going to say tau means third person. T is third. M is first. First person plural, ometha. The mu means first person. Ometha, we had amen. Ometha is first person plural. Second person is este. We had te. And the does look like te. Third plural, ontai. It's almost the same ending as a third person singular, except instead of beginning with an epsilon, it begins with an Omicron nu. So, etai is singular, ontai is plural. And of course, T means third person. Now, I put together some fun things for you to remember these endings. So we have this distraught lady, oh my, first person singular, a tie, oh my, a tie, omita, ometa is the slogan ontai, ameta esta, ontai. So let's look at the present middle passive endings for our friend luo. Of course, the stem of luo will always be lu, but this time, instead of the first person singular ending being omega, it is going to be oh my, lu oh my. And its meaning, instead of I am loosing, is I am being loosed. Second person, eta, iota subscript, a, lue, you are being loosed. Third person, atai, etai, luetai, he, she, it is being loosed. The plural, lu, omitha, ometha. Lu ometha, we are being loosed. Second person, lu is the, luesta. You all are being loosed. Untie. Luantai. They are being loosed. I've spoken about deponent verbs, and I want to clarify that. Deponent verbs are verbs with middle or passive endings, but which are translated as active in English. Deponent verbs are intransitive, that is, they cannot take an object and therefore can never have a passive meaning. So, although they take middle passive endings, because they're intransitive, they cannot be passive. In the present active, deponent verbs have middle passive endings. Okay? In the present active, deponent verbs have middle passive endings. So, erchomai, I am coming. The ending of this is a middle ending, but it is translated as present active. So we're going to refer to verbs as deponent if they appear in your vocabulary with an oh my ending. And let's look at the middle ending meanings. Most of them, what we're going to be using is we're going to be using either the middle for the passive or the middle for deponents, but there are other meanings. So the first one is a passive. We're going to express the passive voice in the present. Luantai hupakuriu, they are being loosed by the Lord. Okay? Luantai is passive. They are being loosed. Deponent is the middle ending with active meaning. So the one I just said was erchomai, and that is the word that is in your vocabulary, means I am coming. There is no ercho. It is erchomai. The other possibility is that there's a different meaning in the active and middle form. So we have aute arche, which we are translating as she is leading, because the active of archo means to lead. On the other hand, we would translate aute archete as she is beginning, because the middle form of archo equals to begin. This is very, very rare. The other form is the reflexive for self. It happens, it occurs a few times in the New Testament, but it's very rare. And when you come across it, you're going to say, I'm using this middle passive ending. It doesn't work in the passive. Maybe it has another ending, but it's going to be very rare. So we have luetai ton hieron, and we get he is destroying the temple, and that middle form is for himself. So let's look at some examples of the present middle passive. Luentai hupakuriu. Antai, third person plural. Middle passive, they are being loosed by the Lord. Blepesta hupatu achlu. Esta, that there looks like a te. Second person plural. Middle, I mean it's passive. You all are being seen, blepo is see, by the crowd. Ha'aklas blepete hupatu matetu. Now we have a third person singular, etai. Remember, if it's a tau, it is third person. And we know that if we have a third person, we look outside of the word to see if there's a word in the nominative, and there's ha'achlas. So ha'achlas blepetai is the crowd is being seen. It's not seeing, middle passive here. The crowd is being seen by hupatu, by the disciple. Luameta hupa out to. Ameta, met. We are being loosed by it. Remember, the ending begins with a mu, is me, first person. Blepe hupatu achlu. That eta iota has only come across one time, and that's the second person. So you are being seen by the crowd. And blepomai, my, me, plural. Hupa tu achlu, I am being seen by the crowd. So let's parse a present middle passive. And we have lue, and that ending is only going to show up once. And that is in the second person singular. The tense, they're all going to be present. The voice is middle passive. If it were in the present, it would be lues. The mood is indicative. The lexical form is luo, and the meaning is you are being loosed. Let's parse a present deponent. erchontai. Deponent, we know this from a vocabulary word because our vocabulary word would be erchomai. The person is third. We have that tie here. Plural. The tense will be present. Deponent, right? You learned it as erchomai, that means it's deponent. Its mood is indicative. Its lexical form is erchomai. Its meaning is they are coming. Let's parse a present middle. This is one that is not a passive, but a true middle. So we have lu et tai. We know that's third person, that tai, right? Third person singular. The present tense. And it's middle, right? This is not middle passive. And it is indicative. Luo, meaning he is loosing for himself. Now you're going to ask me, how do I know that luetai is middle, meaning it is passive, or middle because it's the middle form? And the answer to that is you don't. It's context, and sometimes you have to figure it out. The vocabulary, chapter 18. Apokrinomai. 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 That omai at the end tells you this is going to be a deponent, that middle ending. So this is going to be a deponent when you parse it. I answer. Dei. 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 It is necessary. Dunamai. 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 I am able and powerful. Think of dynamite. Dunamis. Erchomai. 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 One of the most important words in Greek, so know it. I come or go. Nux. 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 Nuktas. The genitive. Right? Kappa sigma there because of the masculine ending. Nuktas. And it is feminine. It means night. Hastis. Hastis, hati. This is whoever, whichever, whatever. Poruomai. 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 Right? Deponent, omai. I go, proceed, live. Poruomai, I always used to remember as I am going to Peru. Sunago. 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 I gather together or invite. This is the word that synagogue comes from. Tapas. 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 Second person, masculine, place or location. The word topology comes from this. Hos, hos, hos. A lot of things, mostly as or like. Can be when, that, how, about, but mostly as or like.